Hello, and welcome to our podcast. This is currently untitled / maybe... I already forgot the exact wording of what we said. I want to talk to you about the book.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the book. Yes, because that's what it's about. It's about the fact that we want to talk about books together.
Exactly.
And so that's what the podcast is. It's a first reader podcast in this instance.
Yes.
Where I am the first reader of Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. And I'm Smeevca. It's important that we say our names.
Yeah.
I was gonna forget it.
And I'm Straub, and I have read the Mistborn trilogy and some of Era 2, but I have not finished Era 2 yet, and some other... started some Stormlight.
Yeah. And I have not read any Sanderson anything. I'm doing the thing that everyone says and starting with Mistborn.
So, so we're doing 5 through 7.
Yeah, chapters 5 through 7.
And yeah, so we're gonna do the little I think they're called what does he call them? Like
What does he call them?
Not epitaph? Epigraph?
Epigraph would maybe make sense.
It's not
Epitaph kind of makes sense, but also kind of doesn't.
because that's like on a gravestone or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yes.
don't remember. But these things at the beginning of the beginning of the chapters
Yeah.
from the
The little freaking Lord Ruler blurbs at the beginning. And now, thoughts with the Lord Ruler. The Lord Ruler's fireside chats.
And that's who you think is...
Yes, that's who I mainly think that it is.
Okay.
Because it's like, so far... I mean, I guess he hasn't, said, but it's like, the terrorist prophecies say that I will do blah, 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 and, they might call me a religious zealot or a tyrant or whatever, but I've got the army. So, it feels Lord Ruler, and he's like, we're gonna be heading out to the terrorist lands or whatever. I'm unsure if this is, because I've been joking that it's, and now, thoughts with the Lord Ruler, but it's is this a past thing?
Yeah.
Is this
what's going on now?
Yeah.
In the present?
Yeah, is this happening now? Is this the history of his conquest?
Yeah.
Is this what is it?
Yeah. Alright, so I'll read the first one.
I was jiggling my ice next to the thing. I don't know if that picked up or not.
Probably, but it's a little bit a little bit of ASMR.
A little bit of ASMR. It's I do want to take sips from my drink, but maybe I shouldn't be quite so.
You can see it on there.
Oh, that's lovely. But yes.
All right, I'll read the first one here. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. The terrorist philosophers claim that I'll know my duty when the time comes, but that's a small comfort. The deepness must be destroyed, and apparently I'm the only one who can do so. It ravages the world even now. If I don't stop it soon, there'll be nothing left of this land but bones and dust.
Yeah, I I always enjoy. It's they tell me that I'll know my duty when the time comes, but that's a small comfort.
Yeah.
They'll say I know when I'm ready, but I don't know.
But it doesn't feel like it.
It really doesn't feel like it.
So we got that one.
It's maybe that's a bad sign, my guy.
Maybe. Alright, next one. I never wanted this, true, but somebody has to stop the deepness, and apparently Terrace is the only place this can be done. On this fact, however, I don't have to take the word of the philosophers. I can feel our goal now. I can sense it, though the others cannot. It pulses in my mind, far off in the mountains.
Right, yeah, because then we get that, which is interesting. See, because also it's the deepness. What the fuck is the deepness? But also, now I'm thinking, because it's okay, I don't... Frickin' Sanderson... The, beyond Mistborn.
Yeah, Cosmere stuff.
It's Terrace is the only place that I can do it. And I'm is that, the land, the continent, or is that, the world that he's on.
Yeah.
Is...
The world, I can tell you that the planet name is... Actually, let me make sure and not say something that...
Just say something wrong.
Say something completely wrong and sound stupid.
It's actually this thing. It's always...
pretty sure it's...
It's like, I'm pretty sure it's this, and you look later and you're like, oh, I was actually entirely wrong about that. Oh, no.
It's Scadrial. Okay.
Scadrial
is the world that it's on.
Okay.
So Terrace is just a... Yeah.
Okay.
I would think less... Cosmere.
I'm too
general.
looking for it.
Yeah.
I'm too looking for like...
He doesn't connect it, like start doing more of that until like later on.
Right. Yeah. It's like you don't.
The earlier ones he was kind of nervous about, like kind of doing it in general.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense because it's like
just this big like overarching like
right. Yeah. Because it's like when you're getting too much into that early on, it's like
it can be overwhelming for
well, it can be overwhelming, and it's also just like it becomes that thing of like, where do I jump in?
Yep, exactly.
It's like it's all so connected, and it's like, oh well, stuff becomes more clear once you've read this,
yes,
and so it's like it's like it's always such the funny thing. It's like, where do I jump in on this like series? And it's like, well, probably whatever was the earliest.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's like, I think about like with games. Sometimes when it's like a really old game, it's like, but that's like kind of hard to get into.
Yeah. Like mechanics are,
Yeah, like Baldur's Gate 3. That's a good place to jump in because they expected nobody to have played 1 and 2. But 1 and 2 were like a direct 1, and then 2 was the sequel, and then 3 is like kind of related if you know.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense to be like, let's give it some time before we start connecting things, because otherwise people are going to be like, what do I need to know?
Right.
Or just like, why would I care?
Yeah.
Because it's like you need like...
Yeah, because you need the rest of the context.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's more...
it's a self-contained
little
thing.
Yep.
And you don't have to worry about it being like, I have to know all this other like lore. Because then it also gets to that like... I think about how people are like, oh, One Piece doesn't get good until like hundreds of episodes in. And it's like, well, that's not true.
Yeah.
It's like some of the really good stuff comes once all this stuff has been built up. But it's like, you need to also have it be like good without having to do all that build up first.
Right.
And One Piece does do that and is entirely unrelated to this. But this also does that because it's its own self-contained good story.
Yeah.
That was this one.
Yep, that was that second one.
And now the one for chapter 7. And it's funny because in the audiobook they have them at like the end of the previous chapter.
Yeah.
Which like, I mean, I guess it's just sort of like, it's still exactly the same because it's just like they read it and then they read like chapter whatever.
Yep.
But like on the, like, when the chapters are broken up, it's like it starts with him saying chapter whatever.
Reshik is a tall man. Of course, most of these terrace men are tall. He is young to receive so much respect from the other packmen. He has charisma, and the women of the court would probably describe him as handsome, in a rugged sort of way. Yet it amazes me that anyone would give heed to a man who speaks such hatred. He has never seen a Klenium, yet he curses the city. He has never seen Klenium, yet he curses the city. He does not know me, yet I can already see the anger and hostility in his eyes. Sorry, that was...
No, you're good. Yeah, because I'd forgot about that part was like the terracemen and stuff like that. Yeah, that's fun because it's like, he's like, oh, he hasn't even been to this place. And it's like, I mean, I imagine you've been out here conquesting a bunch.
Yeah.
So, like, he's probably heard of you. He's never even met me. How? What a hateful man. They might call me a religious zealot, but he's both self-aware and unself-aware at the same time, which is great.
Alright, and the next one. He shall defend their ways, yet shall violate them. He will be their savior, yet they will call him heretic. His name shall be discord, yet they shall love him for it. Yeah.
And again, because I have big Wheel of Time brain, that makes me think of Wheel of Time, Lord of Chaos.
Yeah.
He will break the Aiel, but he will, all that sort of stuff. Yep.
So that's those little snippets, things to think about.
Snippets. Okay, so chapters 5 through 7. Mm-hmm. I finally got to to know more about allomancy.
Yes.
I say finally. Finally for me, because, it's like, it's only like 7 chapters into the book.
Yeah.
Didn't take that long, but it just took me a long time.
Yeah, and it's been a minute since we've recorded.
Yeah, because it's like, we record, it's like I read a bit, and then we record, and then I read a bit more, but then we aren't recording for a while, so it's just like, it's a whole thing. And it's also funny, because like, in between that time, I was talking to someone who had read Mistborn, and I was like talking about, oh yeah, like excited to like figure out the magic stuff, and then just start like being like, oh, that's not really a spoiler, and then just like tells me some of the magic stuff, and it's like, well, okay,
yeah,
because apparently there's like a diagram or something in the back of the book, that like explains it all.
Yeah, there is. And I actually haven't looked at it because I listened to the audiobook when I first read this.
And I'm listening to the audiobook as well now, so it's just like, it's like, if I had the physical book, I could have just looked and known, but like, because I was listening to the audiobook, I wasn't doing that. Yeah. And so I was like, ooh.
But also, if it's at the back of the book, like, that's, like, a map is at the front of the book, you see the map, like, if you put that stuff at the back, like, that's stuff that is fun to discover throughout the thing.
Yeah, and like, like, not everything was told to me, but it is funny because it was like, I was told that stuff, and I'm like, oh man, spoilers, and then like the immediate like next couple chapters
was explaining out was
explaining allomancy, and I'm like, oh well, okay. I guess it's fine. And I was happy to find out that the alloys did matter, because it's like, there's the 8 basic allomantic metals, and I'm like, they're the 8 basic metals, but some of them are alloys. What the fuck's up with that?
Yeah.
And like, alloys they can vary a lot, and so for him to be like, you got to get very specific percentages.
Yeah, I have that in here somewhere.
Yeah, and it just kills me, because I was like, pewter is mostly like tin with some copper in it, but also maybe some other stuff when you like look up the like Wikipedia definition of pewter. And I'm like, sometimes it has lead in it, but I doubt they're like just drinking lead. And then he comes out and is like, it's specifically 91% tin and freaking 9% lead. I was having to decipher my notes. Yeah, it's like, just drink the lead, it's fine, you'll burn it. Don't worry about the lead that you're drinking, just burn it, it'll be fine. But they do say that like, if you don't have the right percentages or whatever, then you get like sick. It's
right.
Like, yeah,
either it won't work well or you get sick.
Yeah, and it's like, that makes sense.
Or won't work at all.
Right, and like, that makes sense, because it's like, oh, it's not, but it's interesting because it means, I guess it's kind of like, because like in chemistry, they'll talk about like a catalyst to a reaction where it facilitates a reaction but doesn't get consumed by it. And I'm assuming that they are still getting consumed in the burning, but it's like, you need the two things together to like make it have the effect. And and also it's like, steel has carbon in it, and we can just burn the carbon. Don't worry about it. Or maybe the carbon doesn't burn, but it's just like, I mean, what percentage of carbon does it have to be? I don't know.
Yeah.
And like, we have carbon in our bodies. That's fine. Just like some activated charcoal at that point. I don't know.
Just have a bunch of charcoal.
Yeah.
Just constantly sitting in your stomach.
It's like, oh. But yeah, so we now know, or I now know, because it's like, when we saw Kelsier going through, doing his thing, fucking shit up.
Yeah.
He's like pushing and pulling, and I was able to get, it's like, okay, iron and steel are pulling and pushing. Tin is enhancing senses. But now I know, and I also knew that like pewter makes you stronger. Copper, but now I know copper protects emotions and hides allomancy. It's like, it does both for free. It hides allomancy and bronze detects allomancy, which copper and then bronze is an alloy of copper, so that kind of makes sense. But like brass is also an alloy with copper, unless this is going to be a pewter situation all over again, because I'm like, copper's overrepresented amongst the metals. But yes, like zinc does the emotion dampening, and brass is emotion rioting.
Yeah.
But copper just also protects from emotional stuff, which is funny, because it's like, copper's in brass, so it kind of makes sense that there'd maybe be a link there. But zinc just on its own also does emotion stuff.
Yeah.
And copper just protects you from it. And when you put copper and zinc together, seemingly, you get emotion right. It's weird. To me, it's a little weird. Because it's like, some of these things are being alloyed together and getting new weird effects. Maybe they'll explain what the like percentages for brass is, and it's not copper and zinc for them. It's zinc and something else. But it feels funny to me that like copper is also protects emotions, just on top of hides allomancy.
Yeah.
That's just like, and just as like an added treat.
Yeah. And it works differently in a lot of ways, because it works in a cloud effect instead of just on, so it's kind of just different in general.
It is because it does make like the cloud around you,
right?
Because it's like the pushing and pulling, you see like the lines going to the metals, but it's like you're affecting one metal at a time.
Yes,
I imagine maybe you can do multiple at once. But
no, like, you can do
multiple at once,
but you can only push away or pull towards you.
You can't do both at the same time. You can't like be pulling one thing and pushing another thing. Maybe we'll find out.
I think you can. It's just that you can't like move it like side to side.
Right.
You're not like moving it all around. You can only
right.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you can push or pull towards you, and it's based on your body weight. You're essentially, I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's like it's iron. It's basically like magnetism is the idea.
Yeah.
It's like, ferromagnetism. Because in the other ones, it's like they do something to your body or to someone else's body.
Yes, yeah.
But then, like, detecting allomancy and hiding allomancy are, like, interesting.
Yeah.
Sort of, like, slightly deviating from that. I just don't think it's fair that copper protects emotions and bronze only gets detect like, you can hide allomancy or you can detect allomancy. But if you can hide it, you also get your emotions protected. Like... But
there's some other weird metals.
I'm sure. Well, because, like, I know that there's, like, atium.
Uh-huh.
And atium does something.
Yep.
I imagine it has, like, my theory, but I'm really unconfident on this.
I would love just a wild atium theory. What does atium do?
My unconfident, unfounded atium theory is that it's somehow... Because it's like he gives it to the nobles, and he gave... the nobles the ability to do allomancy originally.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's somehow connected, maybe?
Okay.
Like, it's the metal that lets you give other people allomancy?
Okay. And
then the 11th secret thing is the one that takes it away, and so that's how you can kill him?
Okay.
Or maybe atium... Well, because, like, also he's, like, immortal. Mm-hmm. So maybe atium's got something to do with, like, longevity?
Okay.
And so then...
Like immortality or whatever, or basically.
Yeah, it's like, because he has a bunch of it, he can essentially be immortal, but and that's why he only gives out little bits to people, and it's like, it's really precious because they can use it to extend themselves.
Yeah.
But, like, we haven't heard anything of, like, oh, these nobles who live super long. Or anything like that. So it's like,
yeah.
It does something. I know it does something. And also the person... and also, something. What a crazy theory. It does something. And also the person who was telling me about allomancy was like, atium gets retconned later. And it's like, I don't even know what it does now. I don't know what you're even talking about.
It might be like an Era 2...
Like an Era 2 thing that
maybe,
that they're talking about, and just like, I don't know. And also I was told that what the ninth medal was, which I haven't been told yet.
Which
of the higher medals.
Yeah.
There's the ninth and the 10th and then the secret 11th thing.
Right.
That the ninth one is gold.
Right.
And it's like that. I was like, I tried not to remember what I was told, but I did remember that. It's like gold's one, which like makes sense insofar as like gold, we care about gold, but then it's like, but there's no like silver or platinum, they don't get to be ones or anything like that.
All right. Do you have more notes or do you want to do chapter?
We can do chapter by chapter because I have some chapter by chapter notes.
Okay.
Because like my chapter 5 notes, because they're very brief for each of them. Kel finds hidden bottle, the old double secret trick, just like Dark Souls 1. That's what I have written down. It's like there's a secret compartment, and then there's like a secret switch inside the secret compartment, which has the bottle hidden in it. And I'm like, just like Dark Souls 1. Because it's like you go down to Blighttown, and at the bottom of Blighttown there's all these roots.
Yeah.
And you can climb up on the roots, and there's like an illusory wall. So you hit it, and there's like, it disappears, and there's like a little hollowed out spot with a treasure chest. But then behind the treasure chest is another fake wall, and if you hit it, it unlocks an entirely like new area. It's the classic double secret trick. Hide a secret with another secret in front of it.
I love it.
Clubs is a smoker. Can't trust yourself around a soother. You can't trust you aren't being manipulated. Copper or no copper. I now know what that means.
Yeah.
As a smoker, he doesn't need to worry about soothers, according to Kel. And so, because at that point, I hadn't learned about what copper does yet. Those are my only notes for chapter 5.
Yeah, I'm looking through.
Because chapter 5 is when they're all like, when they have their like meeting. Yeah. Or no, not when they have...
They're talking kind of before he goes out to get the ATM.
Right, because they already had the meeting.
Yeah.
And Clubs left, but then he comes back and talks...
at the beginning of this chapter, he comes back and...
Yeah, he comes back and talks to Kel because he's like, I didn't want to talk to you with them around because, he's like, can't trust yourself around a soother. And so he's like, I wanted to talk to you one-on-one to make sure everything's cool because I didn't want any funny business. And
which is funny. You're a smoker, Clubs.
He
couldn't do much to you. I don't like soothers.
I don't like them.
It's not just Elemancy, men like that. Well, you can't trust that you aren't being manipulated when they're around. Copper or no copper.
Copper or no copper. Yeah, because that's fucking... I like Breeze.
Yeah, me too. I like his whole kind of philosophy with with Sue. It's interesting because it's like so natural to him and stuff, and so then people see it as so invasive, which it kind of is.
Yeah,
but like I don't know, the philosophy of it is interesting.
Well, it's so funny because it almost feels like on some level he gets that it's like a weird sort of violation of consent because anytime Ham is like, well, when you think about it, it was just rhetorical, Ham.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't actually want to talk about this with you, Ham. I love Ham.
Ham is greid.
Ham the philosophizing.
Exactly.
Military bruiser. Man.
Yep.
Yes. I don't think I quite picked up that he was a military man. I just knew that he was like a tough or a bruiser or whatever they called it.
I don't know if they said specifically he was a soldier. But
yeah, because like maybe they did. I don't remember the details well.
I don't remember either. Oh no. So yeah, basically the beginning part of this chapter is them kind of talking, Clubs coming in and all that, and then
Kel doing his...
Yeah, then Kel says, I have to fetch some ATM, and then goes to...
That's right, Kel's midnight run.
Exactly.
Kel's night out.
Yep.
Just fucking shit up. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed... You know, the pushing, the pulling, the, like, dropping the coin on the ground and shooting yourself up. And like, they say the Mistborn can fly. That's a little bit fanciful, but blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
The fighting with the canes. They have the canes because if they had metal, that would be bad.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is fun.
The haze killers.
Which is fun. See, and there's like, I was watching a video recently about like historical African martial arts recreation stuff.
Okay.
And there's like a whole tradition of like stick fighting.
Yeah.
And like, not just like big long like sort of polearm stick, but like sticks about the size of swords, that they're like essentially like a very like practice form of like sword fighting, but with sticks. And it's like, and they're like, if you like replace the sticks with like an actual sword, you just kind of get the sword fighting practice for whatever. And it's like, so it's like, it all just kind of like makes sense. Like having like dueling canes.
Yep.
They kept saying dueling canes, and now I understand what a dueling cane means. So I'm like, oh, right.
Yes. Because metal is a bad idea if you're fighting people who can manipulate metal.
Yep. The classic weapon, stick. Everyone's favorite classic weapon, stick.
Yep.
Not to be underestimated.
Yeah. So before he goes before he breaks in and stuff, he thinks a bit about about his wife and stuff like that.
Her name?
Mare? Mare?
Yeah, Mare.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. And just kind of
right, yeah,
thinking about her.
And she was a Tin Eye.
Yep. She was a Tin Eye, and then he and Dachshund weren't Allomancers.
They weren't. He snapped. He capital S snapped.
He capital S snapped in the pit.
And awakened as a Mistborn.
Yes.
See, which like leads me to be like, do all Mistborn have to do that?
Yeah.
Like, the nobility Mistborn, do they get snapped in... Eyebrowsing at me. It's like, do they get snapped? Do they just figure it out? Like, can the regular Ska get snapped into it, you know? Yeah. Ska.
Yeah. So there's... Now Kelsier was more, so much more. Once he had dreamed of allomancy, wishing for a power like Mare's. She had been dead before he had snapped, coming to his powers. She would never see what he would do with them.
I'm thinking about that ska, and there's the ska music, and brass.
Yeah.
Because, like, ska has a lot of brass instruments, and that brass is emotion rioting. It's just, like, it's all coming together.
I love it. There we go.
The ska brass band that just, like, gets everyone excited. That's, like... Mistborn's all one big ska joke. That's my... That's my joke. That's my theory is that Brandon Sanderson's a big fan of ska, the musical genre, and that's what Mistborn's about. But yes, not to say that immediately after talking about his dead wife. My apologies.
My apologies to Kelsier's dead wife.
My apologies to Kelsier and his dead wife. To Mare. We do have her name. Yes. I shouldn't just call her Kelsier's dead wife. My apologies once again to Mare.
So then he asks Dachshund, whose house is the strongest right now, to like figure out who to go after. And they mention Venture. Mm-hmm. So then he goes and attacks House Venture. And this is the first time we see a Mistborn cloak, I think.
Yes.
So he pulls out a
yeah, because on the cover, because like I'm listening to the audiobook on Spotify, which I can do apparently because I have premium, and they let you listen to it's like 15 hours of an audiobook or something like that. So I started listening to it last month on that, and like the cover, like looking at the cover, and then like, they described the mist cloak, and I'm like,
the cover.
The cover.
Yep.
It's like, that's Vin in a mist cloak, I imagine.
He pulled open the pack, then whipped out a dark gray cloak, large and enveloping. The cloak wasn't constructed from a single piece of cloth. Rather, it was made up of hundreds of long, ribbon-like strips. They were sewn together at the shoulders and across the chest, but mostly they hung separate from one another, like overlapping streamers.
You know, this weirdly kind of reminds me of Hollow Knight. In the game Hollow Knight, your little guy has like a little cloak, and it's like little like
Yeah.
bands whenever there's like, but whenever you do like your little dash, it like kind of flutters behind you in a way that kind of makes me think of the mist cloaks.
Okay.
And it's also like a grayish kind of color. So.
And so then it's also they're talking about like what it is. A Mistborn cloak. They all wear the things. It's kind of like a sign of membership in their club. It's colored and constructed to hide you in the mist, and it warns city guards and other Mistborn not to bother you.
Don't mess with me. I have privilege.
Basically. And they have, I think that they mention it in this section. I'm not exactly sure where. We'll probably see it at some point.
Yeah, they're like...
That, since Mistborn are basically only nobles, if you
see someone going around doing Mistborn shit...
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
And, like, yeah.
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 It's like, just let them do whatever it is they're doing. They have more magic than you, and they're nobles.
Yep. And it's, like, pretty unheard of to, like, openly have a Mistborn go after, like, another, like...
Yeah.
Like, Mistborn as well. It's kind of, like, unspoken, you know.
Right. Yeah, because it's like, we've got so few Mistborn to go around. They talk about them being very rare.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting because I talk about, like... It's like, even women Mistborn can be important because they're too rare to let gender prejudice keep you from having a woman Mistborn be important or whatever. It's like, too useful.
Yeah, too useful.
Yeah, because we talked, I think, because we had some talk before about, like, maybe I was just thinking about this. It's like, what kind of misting would you want to be? Because it's like, obviously you want to be a Mistborn because you can use all of them. But if you can only use one of them, which one would you be, like, most interested? What type of misting? At least for, like, the 8 basic ones, because, like, I don't know if we're going to get, like, more. It's like, can you only do... It's like, can mistings do the, like, higher metals and shit?
I think I would want to be a pewter misting.
Pewter is a good one, because you can be, like, stronger and tougher.
Yeah, and it's not just, like, strong... It's, like, your bones are stronger.
Yeah.
You're, like all of that type of...
Yeah, that was... Yeah.
Type of stuff.
I like pewter. I also like tin.
Yep.
I feel like being a tin eye, having the, like, enhanced senses.
Tin can be a little double-edged sword.
Yes.
Like, it's good, but also, like, it can really,
You can be, like, over...
Exactly.
Sensitive and stuff. Which is, like... Yeah, for sure. But it's also just, like...
Yeah.
It's cool.
But,
I'm very nosy.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the idea. And also just, like, being able to see far and, like...
Yep.
And also, like, feeling more is interesting. Having, like, more physical touch sensation sounds fun.
Yeah, because he says here, he often wished that burning tin didn't enhance all of the senses, or at least not all of them at once. He needed the improved eyesight to see in the darkness, and he made good use of the improved hearing as well. However, burning tin made the night seem even more chilly to his overly sensitive skin. His feet registered every pebble and wooden ripple they touched.
Yeah. I'm just like... It's very silly, but because it's like... Tin enhances all of your sensations, I'm just imagining all the nobles, like, fucking on tin. It's like, listen, I'm just saying you haven't tried.
A bunch of tin eyes just have a bunch of just like, orgies.
Yes,
tin eye orgies.
The tin eye orgy. Listen, it's like
this is what we bring to the podcast.
This is what we bring to the table. It's like because it's like all the tin eyes. It's like they don't tell the other mistings about it.
It's just for them.
It's just for them because it's like as they know, but it's weird to ask someone else to be because it's also like they're not getting as much out of it as you are because they're not burning tin. It's like, all right, everybody drink your tin and because also they're not as like because it's like you're incredibly sensitive, so you also have to be careful. And if they're not like if they don't know, if they haven't burned tin and they don't know what it's like, you know, they're not going to be as careful with you. Right. These Sanderson, write an erotic novel set in the Mistborn universe about this. about the nuances of consent and trust in the Tenai sex community.
I love it.
Yeah. And then a smoker shows up and just like well, that's dampening emotions. They wouldn't do anything to a Tenai. They don't stop allomancy from happening, they just stop it from being sensed.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of the funny thing. I guess that's like when I was talking about sort of like copper versus bronze.
Yeah.
And how it's like copper gets like an extra thing.
Yeah.
I guess it's like bronze can sense when anyone's doing allomancy.
Yeah.
Copper is just specifically a hard counter
to
bronze.
Yeah.
In terms of like it not being sensed, but you can only sense it if you're a bronze to begin with.
Yes.
So it's like coppers are just specifically a hard counter to bronze, but bronze is an alloy of copper to begin with.
Yeah.
So I guess it's probably
that makes sense kinda.
That makes sense kinda, but it's also like so I guess it's more like copper does like protects you from emotions, from like the emotion dampening stuff, I guess. But also because bronze is like an alloy of copper shuts down bronze's shit. I don't know.
Yeah. I wanted to look. There's in this bit there's a few like descriptions of the allomancy and stuff that I highlight to look through. Steel. We talked about the blue lines, so you can see bits of nearby metal. And I think it's like a thicker line or whatever, like bigger pieces of metal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what type of metal it is.
Yeah, it's just any metal, which is fun. It's it's like the iron and steel are fun and interesting because you get to do the pushing and pulling metals. Yeah. You get to like throw yourself around and throw things around. Yeah,
and then he also
it's all metals.
He left his tin on because tin burns slowly to see through the mists and stuff.
Yeah, see, that's also the fun thing about tin is that it burns slowly, so you get like a lot of use out of it.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to just like keep it sitting around.
Yeah.
You don't want to not burn it, because pewter burns the fastest.
Yeah. So then there's another. Steel pushing and iron pulling were the first things that Gemmel had taught him. When you push on something, it's like you're throwing your weight against it, the old lunatic had said. And you can't change how much you weigh. You're an allomancer, not some northern mystic. Don't pull on something that weighs less than you unless you want it to come flying at you. And don't push on something heavier than you unless you want to get tossed the other direction.
Yeah. What was that person's name?
Gemmel?
Gemmel?
Mm-hmm. Gemmel.
Let me see it. Gemmel. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. And then, talking about the keep,
Keep.
Yeah, so, so there's a bit of, like, talking about how people are armed and stuff. Despite allomantic considerations, most noblemen still armed their soldiers with metal. Mistings who could push or pull metals were uncommon, and full Mistborns were even more so.
Right.
So there are still...
it's like there's still people who have it because it's like it.
You just have a specialized unit.
Yeah, you just have the haze killers for when you need someone specialized and dealing with that kind of thing.
Yep, and so then he comes in. I wanted to. There was a specific guard he killed that there was a scene that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, because he's killing guards and he's like they're ska, but they're traitors because they're working for the Lord Ruler. Yeah, I always want to say like Lord Dragon.
Yeah.
I always want to say like the Dark Lord or the Lord Dragon or something, but it's the Lord Ruler.
Yeah,
like the Great Lord.
So he...
I want to say Great Lord, but it's Lord Ruler.
Yeah. The guard collapsed with a slit throat. Kelsier landed lightly behind him, ears straining in the night, listening for sounds of alarm. There were none. Kelsier left the guard to his gurgling demise. The man was likely a lesser nobleman, the enemy. If he were instead a ska soldier, enticed into betraying his people in exchange for a few coins... Well, then, Kelsier was even happier to send the man to his eternity.
He has, like, a glass blade or something?
He does. Because at the end of this, they send in some mistings.
Right.
And some
Right, yeah, because he removes all of his metal before doing this stuff.
Yeah.
He's
so
like barefoot and has like the cloak.
Yep.
And like removes his like belt buckle and stuff like that.
Yeah. So he gets in, makes some noise on purpose.
Right.
And
pulls the fucking safe out of the wall.
Yeah. So then there were 8 haze killers, and haze killers aren't allomancers, and they got the wooden weapons and all of that.
Yeah.
Deals with them. At one point, they talk about gritting his teeth. Kelsier flared his pewter again. It was running low, he noticed. Pewter was the fastest burning of the 8 metals.
Right, and flaring burns it faster, but stronger.
Yes. Yep.
So
because we hadn't talked about flaring metals
about it yet.
So
now looking back to be like flaring pewter, that's like especially like burning through it fast.
Yep. And a big old
thing. And then
thing of
and in the next chapter he talks about it's like, imagine that you're burning pewter and you're carrying something that's too heavy, or pewter's kept you alive up until this point, but then you stop burning it and just die.
Yep.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. It's like you wouldn't have to worry too much about that sort of thing. Yeah. Because you're not out here fucking fighting people if you were burning pewter.
Right.
You might be lifting something that's too heavy, but that's,
But if I burned pewter, I might be out there fighting people. Who knows?
Yeah. Just out there getting vengeance.
Yeah, little 5 foot.
Yeah.
Bop, bop.
Just I'm trying to think of a good like D&D thing to compare it to. But yeah, just
am I taller than halfling size?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Halfling are what, like 4 foot or something?
Yeah, halflings are like 3 or 4, something like that.
Maybe are dwarves around my height then?
You're maybe like tall dwarf height.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm tall then. There we go.
Yeah, you're a tall dwarf. Yeah, because it's like halflings and gnomes are always like way smaller than I think. They're like they're like 3 feet or something like that, somewhere in there. Yeah, because I have like a halfling character who's like exactly 3 feet.
Okay.
And has an owl that's also exactly 30 feet because it's funny because you can get an owl familiar, and there's a species of owl that's like the great something owl that's like 3 feet tall, and so I just like the idea of like
a 3 foot and 3 foot. Yeah,
it's like the owl just like perches on his head and it's like, I'm 6 feet tall.
Yep.
Just do like because it's like if you're like a warlock and you get like the pact familiar, you can like see through its eyes, which is something you can just do with find familiar, but you can do it even more with like one of the pact boons or whatever. So it's like the idea of just like walking around, it's like, I'm 6 feet tall looking through my bird's eyes. There's a boon that lets you speak through your animal. So the idea just like walking,
just throw like a giant like trench coat on or whatever. Just have the owl talk.
Yeah, just have like just walking around as if you're like an owl man, but you're just like a halfling and a big owl in a trench coat.
Yes. I love
it. I also had the idea of like, has a staff, and the staff has like a perch, and the owl's perched on top of the staff, and so it's even tall. It's just like just in a crowd, and there's like a halfling with like a staff sticking up above everyone's head, and perched on top of the staff is a 3 foot owl who's just like looking at everything.
Just a straight up like periscope.
Yes. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. Off the D&D tangent.
Yes, off the D&D tangent.
I'm sure we will.
Us talk about D&D? Never.
I'm sure that will happen again. Okay.
Yeah, you as a 5 foot Avenger, 5 foot assassin, pewter burner.
Yes. I love it. Okay, so we got the haze colors. We talked about that. Alright, I wanted to talk about the mistings.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah, thugs. Mistings who like ham burn pewter.
Mistings who like ham.
Mistings who like ham. Yep.
Yeah.
Eat a lot of ham.
I mean, that's the thing about ham. Every time I talk about ham, I just think about ham. and it's silly. Because it's like short for something. It's short for like Hammond or something like that.
Yes, Hammond. Yeah. There actually isn't a lot to talk about in the misting section. I thought there was more, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, they did take his final vial of metal off of him. They pulled that.
I wonder if that'll be important somehow.
Yeah, that's the thing with carrying, like, metal reserves, is, like, you know...
Yeah.
Like, it's good to have reserves, also, you know...
Yeah, I'm like, will they be able to trace them somehow with that? I don't know. It seems unlikely that they'd be able to be like, this bottle belonged to, you know. Yeah. Because it's like the metals have to be, if they're like good Allomancer metals, like Allomancer quality metals, and it's like they're going to be like uniform. They're not going to be like... Yeah. I can tell that this metal was made by so-and-so because whatever, you know. It's fucking metal filings in alcohol. Yeah. It's not like a, you know, a block with like a fucking made by so-and-so.
Right. Yeah, so, okay. So then he pulls the safe out of the wall and then uses that to, like, stop his fall. Like, uses the safe, like, pushing on that.
Yeah, which is fun.
And then, so then he checks the safe. He pulled it open, revealing a grouping of dark bead-like bits of metal. Atium. His scars flared, memories of his time in the pits returning to him.
Yeah, because they're such tiny, because it's just, like, the description is like these tiny little beads of atium, right?
Yep.
And so it's like, all this for such a tiny amount of metal.
Yep.
But apparently the Lord Ruler just has, like, a bunch of it.
Yeah.
And also they're mining it out in the pits.
In the pits of Hathsin.
The pits of Hathsin. Thou hath sinned. And must go to the pits and get the atium.
Yeah, so then, no, this night was not a waste. Even if he hadn't found the atium, which he did. There was a section before. Any night that had ended with a group of dead noblemen was a successful one, in Kelsier's opinion. He kept his pewter burning. Without the strength that lent its body, he'd probably collapsed from the pain of his wounds and dashed off into the night.
Okay. My new, or my adjusted atium theory.
Adjusted theory.
Is that it has something to do with being Mistborn.
Okay.
Because he was down in the atium mines, and that's when he snapped.
Okay.
So it's like... You need to use atium to make someone Mistborn?
Okay.
Maybe to unlock their...
Yeah, Mistborn, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. It's sort of related to the whole giving allomancy, but it's like... Because it's like... He snapped in the atium mines.
Yep.
It would seem. So it's like, maybe it's connected somehow. And maybe that's why, like, only nobility can be... But also... But Vin is, and it's not like she's been around atium as far as I know.
Yeah.
How is the atium described? Does it have, like, a color?
Yep. Revealing a grouping of dark, bead-like bits of metal.
So no, like, description of, like, its color or anything?
Just dark, bead-like.
Is atium a real metal, or is it, like, a fantasy?
It's fantasy metal.
It's a fantasy metal.
I'm, like, 99% sure.
Because in my brain, it's gold.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's dark. I don't think it is.
Yeah, because it's like dark bits, so it's like it's not like a yellow gold. It's probably like black or something.
I kind of imagine it more kind of either obsidian color almost, or like gunmetal.
Gunmetal came to mind. Yeah, like
something
black
like that. Yeah.
gunmetal kind of thing. What is gunmetal? It's like a term. It's like
I think it's just like a finish on whatever metal is being used. Like, I think you can have a gunmetal finish on silver, on copper, on like like whatever. Like, you can.
Interesting.
Like, because you can like iodize different metals, and then like do this. Like, I think it's like something like that.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right, so we got to chapter 6, and it's Vin perspective.
Vin, who I always want to call Min. Once again, Wheel of Time brained.
Yeah, and she's has the feeling that something is wrong because it is quiet and comfortable, and she is not used to that.
Yes. Poor Min.
You did it again.
God, I literally just said it, and then I said Min. My God. Poor Vin. My apologies to Vin.
I love it. Yeah, and it was comfortable. She lay on an actual mattress, raised on posts with sheets and a plush quilt. She sat up frowning. It felt wrong to have a room all to herself. She had always been crammed into tight bunk rooms filled with crew members. Even while traveling, she had slept in beggars' alleys or rebel caves, and Rin had been there with her, or Reen. She'd always been forced to fight to find privacy.
You unfortunately lost some pages.
I have lost some pages. The beginning of this book is falling out.
Yeah, that's... It's because you did the fully...
Yeah, I fully bent it behind.
Yeah.
It's the $10 paperback, so, you know.
Yeah. That'll happen.
I'm not too worried.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then Vin's perspective, she's just kind of wandering around, and she's staying at Clubs' shop.
Right.
And she had basically she'd waited till everyone was asleep and scouted the entire place to see where everything is.
Right.
And where everyone was staying.
Right, and she sees everyone, like, moving in, because, like, Breeze gets a bunch of people to, like, carry his stuff in for him.
Yeah. So then she hadn't tapped for trapdoors or false walls. The noise might have awakened someone, but experience told her that it wouldn't be a proper lair if it didn't have at least a secret basement and some bolt holes. And then it's the Clubs' shop, like, as a cover, is a carpentry shop. He's a skilled craftsman, ska craftsman.
Yes. And his like apprentices or whatever are also copper. They're also smokers.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's like, as a smoker, you're expected to provide many smokers to keep everything hidden, to run the base of
the whole operation. Yeah,
it's like your job is to be HQ, to be the safe house.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can keep us hidden.
Yep.
In a way that
Yep. So there's that, and so then there's just a thought that she has, like, thinking about Kelsier, and like how long she should stay around. Experience told her that a powerful man like Kelsier would withhold knowledge from her as long as he could, stringing her along with occasional tidbits. His knowledge was what bound her to him. It would be unwise to give away too much too quickly. And so then she's just kind of, she's filtering all of her interactions kind of through this,
right.
Her very suspicious lens.
Yeah,
like at one point,
because her brother was shady.
Yep, and everything she's ever been around has been shitty.
Yeah.
Basically. And then, because at one point, Dachshund just, like, mentioned that he had noticed her around or whatever. These are observant men. I'm gonna have to remember that.
Yes.
And, you know, stuff like that. And then so she took a bath.
I like Dachshund.
Oh, yeah. I love Dachshund. She took a bath. She smelled funny. And she's not a fan of it. And she thinks it'll give her away too much. And, like, how could she ever sneak smelling so?
Yes. So much like a lady, like a capital L lady.
Yeah. And no ash in the corners. People sweep up the ash, and she never lived in a place like that. Basically, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Always pays to stay near the smoker. Ham is coming in and talking to Vin. So then Ham says, anyone know where Kel is? Sleeping. He came in last night and hasn't gotten up yet. Doc's? In his room on the 3rd floor. He got up early, came downstairs to get something to eat, and went back upstairs. She didn't add that she knew from peeking in through the keyhole that he was sitting on his desk scribbling on some papers.
Right.
Ham raised an eyebrow. You always keep track of where everyone is like that? Yes. You're an odd kid, Vin. And then,
it's the trauma.
Yeah. Then Ham just grabs some food and walks off. Then Vin eyed the kitchen. Ham had gone in and taken food. Was she allowed to do the same? Trying to look confident, Vin strode into the kitchen. A pile of bay wraps sat on a platter. Vin picked up 2 of them. None of the women objected. In fact, a few of them nodded respectfully towards her. I'm an important person now, she thought with a measure of discomfort. Did they know she was a Mistborn? Or was she simply treated with respect because she was a guest? Eventually, Vin took a 3rd bay wrap and fled to her room. It was more food than she could possibly eat, however. She intended to scrape out the barley and save the flatbread, which would keep well. She would need it should she need it later. I cannot speak.
Yeah, you were doing really good up until just that last bit. And I'm just over here thinking, what's a bay wrap?
Yeah.
Barley and flatbread, apparently.
Yeah. So then we got Lester Bornos shows up. A young man who stood outside the boy who had been with clubs back at Cameron's lair. I don't think they say his name in this part yet. I think it's in the next chapter.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so then they all gather for another meeting.
He's the one who, like, has a particular way of speaking,
yes,
right?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So then they summarize, well, let's get the framework straight first. The plan is to gather Eden and army, cause chaos in Luthadel, secure the palace, steal the Lord Ruler's ATM, then leave the government to collapse. Essentially, Kelsier says. And then our main problem is the garrison, so they're talking about doing... So this is the whole, like, kind of whiteboard meeting. Chaos in great houses beside Luthadel garrison. So they're basically kind of going through, like, breaking up the plan, like, into things for different people. So chaos in great houses beside Luthadel garrison. The ministry is something they're wanting to do. ATM, secure treasury. Troops in Sky Rebellion were added to the board. Yeden's bad attitude was labeled to the board.
Yes, Yeden's bad attitude. Yeah. Okay, right, yeah, because they had the, like, preliminary bit, like, are you in on... And then this is the more detailed meeting. That's right. Yeah. For some reason, I thought that was before Kel went and did the thing, but, like, yeah.
So then, they've been talking about this. Vin frowned, trying to decide if Kelsier was attempting a joke or not. The list wasn't just daunting, it was disturbing. 20,000 Imperial soldiers, the collected forces and power of the high nobility, the ministry. One Steel Inquisitor was said to be more powerful than 1,000 troops. And then, more discomforting, however, was how matter-of-factly they regarded the issues.
Yeah, but Kel dealt with that one Steel Inquisitor that one time, so, like, it's fine.
It's fine. How could they even think of resisting the Lord Ruler? He was, well, the Lord. He ruled all the world. He was the creator, protector, and punisher of mankind. He had saved them from the deepness, then brought the ash and mists as punishment for the people's lack of faith. Vin wasn't particularly religious. Intelligent thieves knew to avoid the Steel Ministry, but she knew the legends.
Yeah, it's interesting. Brought the ash and mist as punishment for their lack of faith.
Yes. Yeah, so that's kind of the religion of the Steel Ministry and the theocracy that that has been going on for the past 1,000 years.
So some of what this reminds me of, it's not the same at all. But what it kind of reminds me of is something from, like, antiquity, or from, like, classical Greece, like Plato, or Socrates, or Plato pretending to be Socrates, one of those. Plato's Republic, that's what it is. Plato's Republic, which is one of the ones where he's pretending to be Socrates, maybe, where he's like, Socrates said this, and people are like, are you just saying that he said this, or did Socrates actually say this? Because Plato did do that. And there's this whole thing, I think it's one of the ones that he says Socrates said this, but it's called Plato's Republic for a reason. People call it that for a reason. Where he has this idea of, like, the noble lie.
Okay.
That unites the society together. This thing that we as philosophers coming up with this know to be untrue, but that the people would believe so that they would all, like, work together and make the system function.
Okay.
And the lie would be that basically it's like we make a caste system and we tell people that they belong in these different castes because they have certain percentage of metal in their souls, like precious metals in their souls. It's like the philosophers have this in their soul, the people who fight and are like soldiers have this in their soul, the craftsmen, just like regular people, have this in their soul.
Okay.
And that's sort of like the gods put it there, and that justifies the sort of the natural order of things.
Okay.
We, the philosophers,
Yeah.
should be in charge.
Yeah.
And then there's the people who fight, and then there's the people who make stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone stays in their proper place because of the noble lie.
Yeah.
And so the idea, it's like, oh, the mists and the ash are here to punish you for, and it's like, the Lord Ruler definitely brought them for this. And it's like, so that kind of makes you think of it, and also the allomancy stuff, and like the metal in your soul.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
I think about that sometimes. I think about Plato's Republic sometimes, because he talks about this idea of the state can be happy and prosperous.
Okay.
Without the people in it being happy.
Interesting.
The people being happy within the state is not a requirement for the state to be happy, because the state is having all of its goals met. Yeah. Which is like, at the time, you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But then it's like, when you think about it, you're like, he didn't mean it this way, but what a damning indictment of... it's like, every now and then I look around and I'm like, the state can be happy without the people being happy. With literally no one in this, like, not even the rulers being happy. It's not even just like that the rulers in charge are happy. No one can be happy with what's going on, but the state still be happy, so, as it were. Interesting. Because its goals are being met. Okay. If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, and sometimes I think about that. And the way things are right now.
So then we, let's...
So where were we?
We're still in this in this meeting or whatever.
Right.
She uses his name as an oath by the Lord Ruler. You're serious. You don't really mean, you really mean to do this. Don't use his name as an oath, Vin. Even blasphemy honors him.
Even blasphemy honors him.
When you curse by that creature's name, you acknowledge him as your god.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
I like that.
Yeah.
I remember reading that and really enjoying. Even blasphemy honors him.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Which is that's an interesting sort of, I don't know, comment on atheism almost. Or like the religious view on atheism in a way, where it's like, you can't be an atheist and not believe. You have to be like against God. To be so not thinking of God is more of an insult almost. Okay. I feel. To some perspective. Where it's like, so you can't just be like an atheist, like, oh, like, you're rejecting God and you're with the devil, or you're like whatever. It's like, it has to be in some relation to God. You can't just be like, no, I don't even think about God that often. Yeah. Because that's almost more of an insult. Because like, what do you mean you're not thinking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, even blasphemy honors him.
Okay, so they're still talking about the rebellion, all of that. About it's insane.
Right.
And then they come up with doing a house war to cause chaos.
I have in my notes for chapter 6. The only thing I have for chapter 6
is house war.
Is house war. City hasn't had one of those in a while.
Yeah. So that's what they're gonna do to try and distract the garrison and cause chaos and all of that. And so that's the plan. And so then they are trying to get they're trying to figure out who to send to do send undercover as a noble or whatever. But Breeze is compromised, Dachshunds is compromised.
Right.
And they send
it's like they're gonna send Vin or something?
They're gonna send Vin, but I skipped to the end of the chapter, I think, where they talk about that.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's the end of the chapter where they talk about it. Vin, infiltration. They're gonna have
Vinfiltration.
Vinfiltration. Okay, so house war.
V for Vinfiltration.
Oh, and then they also mention when they're talking about what could go wrong. He could also send.
I mean, V for Vendetta is perhaps the better pun there. Sorry, you were saying.
You're good. They talk about he could also send for a Koloss army.
Yeah.
And
so you say Kolos, and I'm immediately just like colossal. Like, are these just like giant golems or something?
Yeah.
What's Kolos?
yeah. True, but they're stationed a moderate distance away. That's a flaw we need to exploit. Kolos troops make wonderful grunts, but they have to be kept away from civilized cities. The very center of the final empire is exposed, yet the Lord Ruler is confident in his strength. And why shouldn't he be? He hasn't faced a serious threat in centuries.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, see, hearing them described like that makes them sound more like regular people, kind of, but they're not. They're Kolos, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's like, like Steel Inquisitors are dudes with fucking spikes through their head. And it's like, how are you alive? What the fuck? What the fuck's up with you? I'm so curious as to how that's gonna be. Because also it's like, if ATM does have something to do with like life, whatever, it's like, is that why they're still alive even though they have spikes in their head?
Yeah.
I don't know. They don't say what the spikes are made of, do they?
Nope.
Because it's like, I would imagine steel because it's the Steel Inquisitor.
Yeah.
But also it's like, maybe not.
Yeah. Yep, so they're talking about raising an army. Where are they gonna be? There's caves to the north, and so and then Eden's surprised, like, what? You know about the caves in the north?
It's like, everyone knows about the caves in the
Lord
north.
Ruler knows about the caves in the north. He's just not worried.
This is not worried.
And so, yeah.
No one's worried about the Scow Rebellion.
No, really, really not. Okay, so then we got that. Okay, so then they're trying to figure out how to get the garrison, like, out of the city, and they can't figure it out, and Vin recommends the Pits of Hathsin close enough to draw them out, but far enough away so that it'll take them a while to get back.
Yeah.
And so they're going to cause chaos at the Pits of Hathsin.
Yeah, because if that's where the Lord Ruler is getting his ATM, he's going to have to protect that.
Yeah.
But also people don't know that's where
Exactly.
he's getting it, so it's like he can't be too obvious about it, but like he will need to like send people there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's their plan. Breeze is up for collecting recruits. Breeze, I'm counting on you and your Allomancers to force us up a nice selection of recruits. Kelsier, my good man, I wish you wouldn't use words like force in reference to my talents. I simply encourage people. Well, can you encourage us an army?
Yeah.
How much time do I have? A year. So he's got a year to encourage him up an army. Weapons and supplies.
Right, so like our timeline
is, a year. Yeah. Weapons and supplies are already Lord Renew. That's how he's getting them.
Mm-hmm.
And
knowing that original Mistborn, that Mistborn Era 1 is a trilogy, I wonder if we're even gonna like get to this thing by this book, or if that's gonna be like a book 3 thing, or if it's because like if it happens this book, like it can't go the way it's planned, or nothing can ever go quite as planned with these sorts of things. For everything to go exactly as planned would be a little bit like, oh, okay, but yeah, it's like like either we're really going to get into like the aftermath of this, or like this isn't going to happen until like book 3, and this is going to be a big climactic thing. And then we have Era 2 where we get like sort of more the
stuff after.
Yeah, so curious to see, because I'm excited to overthrow the God King.
Yeah.
that appeals to me.
Yep. So they're talking about a nobleman that a way to get weapons. Like, and Kelsier says, "I found a nobleman sympathetic to the cause." And they're like, "That'll never happen." And he's like, "I already found someone. His name is Lord Renew." And they're all like, "How, why, or whatever." And then they're like, "Why would you work with a nobleman? It's weird that you would work with a nobleman." And then suddenly Breeze laughed. He leaned back in his chair, downing the last of his wine. "You blessed madman! You killed him, didn't you? Renew, you killed him and replaced him with an imposter." Kelsier's smile broadened. Eden cursed, but Ham simply smiled. "Ah, now that makes sense. Or at least it makes sense if you're Kelsier the foolhardy."
Yeah.
And then...
See, I'm... there's like a part of me that's like... It's like, really? No one in the nobility is even a little sympathetic? But, I mean, to be fair, it is pretty a long shot.
Yeah. And so then Eden's upset that they killed a nobleman, and he's like, "What do you think we're doing?"
Yeah.
And then they're worried about the replacement, and he says, "My actor is very good."
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mistwraith.
where is it?
Mistwraith stealing people's faces. That's what this all is.
It's all myth race.
Yeah, myth race.
Yeah, that that was the right word. Anyway.
Mistwraith.
So then, also, Breeze and Ham had a bet about whether Kelsier was involved in the disturbance at House Venture the night before. Okay, and then they also have Breeze under planning and Kelsier under general mayhem.
Yes.
Okay, so here's another thing about Lord Renew. So they're talking about getting someone into the nobility.
Right.
Well, that should be easy. We simply bring up your imposter and send him to the parties. Unfortunately, Lord Renew won't be able to come to Luthadel. Eden frowned. Why not? Won't your imposter hold up to close scrutiny? Oh, he looks like Lord Renew, all right, Kelsier said. Exactly like Lord Renew. In fact, we just can't let him get near an Inquisitor. Ah, Breeze said, exchanging a glance with Ham. One of those. Well then. And Eden doesn't know what he means. And they, then Breeze shook his head. You know how unsettled you were when Kelsier said he had replaced Lord Renew with an imposter? Well, this is about a dozen times worse. Trust me, the less you know, the more comfortable you'll be.
Yeah. So we haven't gotten, like...
No, an explanation.
Yep. That gives me a weird vibe now. Mm-hmm. I now have the vibe that, like, because it's like he looks exactly like him.
Yeah.
He just won't hold up to close scrutiny.
Can't be near Inquisitors.
Can't be near Inquisitors, because they can detect allomancy. Mm-hmm. I'm like, is he dead? I mean, we know he's dead.
Yeah.
But is the replacement him just like the dead him being like controlled? But that wouldn't make sense because he's like, oh, I got an actor who's doing it. So it's got to be an actor. So it's like maybe someone who's using allomancy to look like him. Mm-hmm. But none of the basic metals we have so far would let you do that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like a more advanced thing.
Yeah.
Like one of these other metals. Maybe that's what gold does.
Yeah.
One of the higher metals or whatever. Yeah. And that's where the whole, like, Mistwraith stealing your face thing comes from.
Specific misting?
Yeah, like a specific type of misting, or, like, maybe only Mistborn can do it or something. Because it's like, a misting can do one of the 8 basic metals, but there's these higher metals, and it's like, how do they play into all of this? Can you be a Mistborn of one of those metals? Can you be a misting of one of those metals? Yeah. If you're Mistborn, I assume you can use them, but, like, can a misting also use them because they're higher metals and that's like, and they're just, like, universal?
Yeah.
Or is that, like, dumb?
I like the theories.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad.
Oh yeah, and this is where we see Lestiborna's name. What about my nephew?
Listborns.
Sending someone in to infiltrate the nobles.
Not of the Yetting yet.
Yes. Yep. That's a bit of. Do you always speak in that Eastern street slang? The boy shrugged, obviously nervous, being the center of attention.
Frickin' Cockney.
Wasn't the place when I was young, and so then Vin is gonna do the infiltration.
Vinfiltration.
Okay, so then we've got...
Vinfiltration.
We got that, then we got Eden on there for preparation and rule. That should be it then. Ham says, what about the ministry? Shouldn't we at least find a way to keep an eye on those inquisitors? Kelsier smiled. We'll let my brother deal with them. Like hell you will. A new voice from the back of the room. And Marsh comes in. A man stood there, tall and broad shoulders. He had a statuesque rigidity. He wore modest clothing, a simple shirt and trousers with a loose ska jacket. His arms were folded in dissatisfaction, and he had a hard, square face that looked a bit familiar. And yeah, so it's Marsh, Kelsier's older brother.
Yeah, and my notes for chapter 7. Kel's brother used to lead the Sky Rebellion. Just drink the lead alloy. Don't worry about it. Pure metals pull, alloys push. So those are my notes on chapter 7. So
we got, so this is in Kel's perspective.
Yeah, at first.
Yeah, and he hadn't seen him in like 3 years, basically.
Right. And they have a whole thing.
Yeah. Yet if Doxson were to believe, Marsh's attitude had changed much since that day 3 years before. Kelsier still found it hard to believe that his brother had given up leadership of the Scar Rebellion. He'd always been so passionate about his work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then he comes in and hands him a sheet of paper. "What is this?" Kelsier asked, picking it up. "The names of the 11 people you slaughtered last night," Marsh said. "I thought you'd at least want to know." Kelsier tossed the paper into the crackling hearth. "They served the Final Empire. They were men, Kelsier. They had lives, families. Several of them were Ska. Traitors.
Yeah.
People." Yeah, so they're kind of going back and forth on that.
Yeah, can I see?
Yeah.
Because there's like a part, like right around there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was literally it's like, people who are just trying to do the best with what life gave them. Well, I'm doing the same thing. Unfortunately, life gave me the ability to push men like them off the top of buildings.
Yup. Yeah.
If they want to stand against me like noblemen, then they can die like noblemen.
Yup.
And I'm like, you know, Cal, you make an interesting point. It is sort of like an interesting...
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
He's an interesting character. It is also, I feel like, an interesting sort of counter-argument to the whole, they're doing the best they can, and it's like, well, I'm also doing the best I can.
Yeah, yep.
And it's like, well, you should do better, and it's like, by what definition of better? And should they also do better?
Yeah.
Than to be doing what they're doing? You know? It goes both ways. And you get like a sort of a genuine tension between them.
Yes, yeah, which I really like with Marsh and Kelsier.
It's not like... It's a genuine tension. It's not like... And Marsh is obviously correct, or Kelsier's obviously correct here, you know? It's like... It's a disagreement about, like, ends justifying the means and things like that. Right.
Yeah, and so then there's also a bit of... Kelsier's like, "You should be happy that I'm doing this," or whatever.
Yes.
And then he goes, "How dare you do this?" Marsh asks softly. "I dedicated my life to overthrowing the Final Empire. While you and your thieving friends partied, I hid runaways. While you planned petty burglaries, I organized raids. While you lived in luxury, I watched brave people die of starvation." Marsh reached up, stabbing a finger at Kelsier's chest. "How dare you? How dare you try to hijack the rebellion for one of your little jobs? How dare you use this dream as a way of enriching yourself?" And, like, obviously we know that that's not what he's really doing right now, but
it's very... It makes a lot of sense why he'd feel this way.
Exactly. And it shows us, like, what he was like before. Mm-hmm. You know, like, he was kind of just doing thieving just to thieve, and his brother's kind of shocked to see him.
Yeah, because it's another sort of interesting, like, thinking about, like, people just doing the best that they can. Kel's form is like, well, shit sucks, but I can make a space for myself where it's good. Me and these folks can do this thieving thing. We can make a good life. Yep. Good lives for ourselves. Yep. You know, like, at the expense of, like, the nobility and stuff, but also probably at the expense of just, like, other, more, like, regular people. While he's like, I'm doing all this stuff for, like, the Ska, where it's like, why don't you just thieve?
Yep, yeah.
And he doesn't, like, phrase it like that, or even, like, you know, doesn't say anything like that, but it's like, the sort of the two different responses to the bad situation that they're in. Yeah. And the ways that they sort of, like, feel at odds. Yeah. You know, it's like, you're living in luxury, and I'm doing this sort of thing, and it's like, you know... Like,
and then now you're coming back, you want to just, like, do all this take over the rebellion, like, I put so much into this, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then he convinces him that, like, he doesn't really... It's not about money and all of that. Right. But yeah, and Marsh talking about how he kind of... I've faced reality, something you've never been good at. Even when you're, even if you're serious about this plan, you'll fail. Everything the rebellion has done, the raids, the thefts, the deaths, has accomplished nothing. Our best efforts never amounted to a mild annoyance for the Lord Ruler.
Yeah. Rebellion's not doing so well.
Yeah, so then that's why Marsh is not involved anymore. He's just kind of...
Yeah, he's kind of like...
Given up
on the cause.
But yeah, so now...
Understandable.
Yeah, they're talking about... they talk about Mare for a bit. There's a bit of a harsh line from Marsh here.
Yeah.
Where he goes, I'm sure... I miss her too. I'm sure that you do, but I have to be honest with you, Kel. Despite what she did, sometimes I wish you hadn't been the one to survive the pits.
Yeah.
I wish the same thing every day. Yeah, that's
rough. That's a rough thing to say to your brother. It's an interesting say to your brother about your brother's wife.
Yeah, because I think there was a bit of a, like, they both...
We're into her
type of scenario.
Yeah, one of those.
Seems, yeah. And so then Marsh turned, studying Kelsier with his cold, discerning eyes, the eyes of a seeker. Whatever he saw reflected inside of Kelsier must have finally met with his approval. And so then he says he'll come back and listen. Oh yeah, and so then he sees Vin lurking, like listening to the conversation. Someone else, however, hadn't yet learned not to carry metal on her person. The blue lines were thin and weak. They didn't do so well penetrating wood, but they were strong enough to let Kelsier locate the belt latch of a person out in the hallway, moving quickly from the door and down to her room.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that. So then Kelsier comes to talk to Vin.
Yep. Training time.
Yeah, like... So what do you think of Marsh? I don't know, I didn't see much of him before he kicked us out. Kelsier smiled. You're not gonna admit that I caught you, are you? Vin almost smiled back. Reen's training came to her rescue. The man who wants you to trust him is the one you must fear the most.
Right.
Her brother's voice almost seemed to whisper in her head. It had grown stronger since she had met Kelsier, as if her instincts were on edge.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, they go and do training... Oh yeah, so then there's also this little scene where she's looking out at everyone talking in the room, like just talking and eating or whatever. She's like walking by.
Oh yeah, it's like they like hanging out together. Yeah. They're not just like a thieving crew.
Vin lingered within the shadows of the workroom, letting Kelsier enter the kitchen without her. But she was still close enough to see inside. Dachshund, Breeze, and Ham sat with clubs and his apprentices around a wide table. Wine and ale were present, though in small amounts, and the men were munching on simple evening snack of puffed barley, cakes, and battered vegetables. Laughter trickled out into the workroom, not raucous laughter, such as had often sounded from Cayman's table. This was something softer, something indicative of genuine mirth, of good-natured enjoyment. Vin wasn't certain what kept her out of the room. It was as if the light and humor were a barrier, with Vin exiled to the quiet, solemn workroom. She watched from the darkness and wasn't completely able to suppress her longing. And so just, yeah. Her seeing people being friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor sad Vin.
Yeah. And then, Kel comes back with a gift, a present. She let the gray material unroll in her fingers, revealing a Mistborn cloak, like the garment Kelsier had worn the night before. You look surprised, Kelsier noted. I assumed I'd have to earn this somehow. What's there to earn? Kelsier said, pulling on his own cloak. This is who you are, Vin. And so then, gets the mist cloak on. Talking about, you want to get in the habit of wearing things that don't have any metal on them. Belt with no buckles, shoes that slip on and off, trousers without clasps, stuff like that. Talking about the mists. Your first lesson. This isn't about allomancy, but attitude. He swept his hand forward. This, Vin, this is ours. The night, the mists, they belong to us. Ska avoid the mists as if they were death. Thieves and soldiers go out at night, but they fear it nonetheless. Noblemen feign nonchalance, but the mists make them uncomfortable. He turned. The mists are your friend, Vin. They hide you, they protect you, they give you power. Ministry doctrine claims that the Mistborn are descendants of the only men who remained true to the Lord Ruler during the days before his ascension. Other legends whisper that we are something beyond the Lord Ruler's power, something that was born on the day when the mists first came upon the land.
I'm looking at the map now.
The map, yeah.
Now that it's fallen out of the book.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing the compass has like symbols around it that aren't like north, south, east, and west. And I've been seeing those symbols at like the start of the chapters in your book, and the like allomancy. Yeah,
they're all represented with a symbol like that.
Yeah, hides allomancy, reveals allomancy, but it also protects your emotions for some reason. Yeah, pulls on nearby metals, pushes on nearby metals, enhances senses, enhances physical abilities, riots emotions, soothes emotions, hides allomancy, reveals allomancy.
And then the external metals are italicized and...
the internal?
Yeah, so external are italicized, internal aren't. Pushing metals are bolded. Pulling are not bolded.
Yeah, because I had a thing in here.
Because it's external mental pushing, internal mental pushing, iron, external physical pulling. So each of them are, they're multiple.
Yeah, because if you
internal, external, push or pull.
Yeah, because I have like pure metals pull, alloys push is what I have. Which like steel pushes, pewter pushes, brass pushes, bronze pushes, but
I'm realizing something, Cosmere.
But iron, tin, zinc, and copper, which are pure metals, they pull. And you said that you're realizing something, Cosmere?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
Because there's internal metals, it says internal or external, pushing or pulling, and mental or physical.
Yeah.
And those are the
splits.
Yeah.
Doing the splits.
Yeah, because this is metals stuff mainly. Like this is like the training stuff.
Yeah, we get to see them training. We see them training, the pulling and pushing.
Yeah, I like the... so the guards just ignore the Mistborn? Kelsier shrugged. It's bad etiquette to acknowledge that the skulking rooftop figure that you see is actually a quite distinguished and proper High Lord, or even High Lady.
Yes.
That's the Mistborn are so rare that houses can't afford to apply gender prejudices to them.
Yep.
Yep, so they don't even have to worry running around the city with their mistcloaks on.
Get out of consequences free cloak. Not exactly, of course, but...
Alright, let's get you used to the basic metals. Can you feel your metal reserves? And so then she feels...
Yep, she feels her various
that,
ones.
And then she goes to burn them one at a time.
And we start getting to just drink the lead, don't worry about it.
Yeah. So then it's going through pewter, talks about flaring. You can burn your metals a little more powerfully if you try. It makes you run out of them much faster, and it's difficult to maintain, but it can give you an extra boost. Now there's something you need to know about allomantic metals. The more pure they are, the more effective they are. The vials we prepare contain absolutely pure metals prepared and sold specifically for allomancers. Alloys like pewter are trickier since the metal percentages have to be mixed exactly right if you want maximum power.
Right.
In fact, if you aren't careful when you buy your metals, you could end up with the wrong alloy entirely.
Yeah.
The thing is, most of the terms that people use, words like brass and pewter, bronze, are really quite vague when you get down to it.
Yep.
Pewter, for instance, is generally accepted as an alloy of tin mixed with lead, with perhaps some copper or silver, depending on use and circumstances.
Which is funny because when I was looking up like the Wikipedia definition, lead is less than the like copper or silver or antimony. Antimony came up multiple times in the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, but
for
no one
pewter,
knows antimony.
But no one knows antimony.
To just say lead.
So it's easier to just say lead. Just drink the lead. Just drink the lead. It's fine. You'll burn it.
So yeah, the Allomancer's pewter, however, is an alloy of 91% tin, 9% lead.
Yeah.
If you want maximum strength from your metal, you have to use those percentages.
I'd like to know the other metal percentages.
And if you burn the wrong percentage, if the mixture is only off by a bit, you'll get some power out of it, but it's too far off, burning it will make you sick. And then she said she thinks she's done it in small amounts before. Trace metals from drinking water.
Which again leads me to this whole thing. It's like, if you can burn the copper when it's in bronze, why can't you burn the copper on its own just as copper? But I guess it's like you have to have the zinc in there too. But we also can't just burn zinc. It's funny.
Yeah. Okay, so then...
Because, like, in a metal alloy, like the metals are, like, bonded together, but they're not bonded in the same way that, like, chemical bonds form.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, because it's, like, metallic bonds are different from, like, other, like, whenever, like H2O.
Yeah.
Hydrogen and 2 oxygen. No. 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. Other way around. That's water, and water has these certain properties different from hydrogen and oxygen because they've bonded together. But like metal alloys, it's like it's still just the metal and the metal, but they're just like thoroughly mixed up together. But they haven't like bonded in the same way.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're kind of a new material, but they're really kind of not. They're just a really thorough mixing of the two materials, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's like with metallic bonds, they just have like free-flowing electrons between them, and like that's why electricity can move through. It's why it's very conductive and stuff like that. And so it's like that's what like bonds them, but like metals are weird.
Yeah.
And so it's like I feel weird about the fact that it's like, and this is an alloy and it's a different metal.
Yeah.
It's like, is it? Where does the metal go when you burn it? That's another question. When you burn the metal inside of you, what happens to it?
Yeah.
Like, is it just gone? Does it pass through your body?
I would assume it's translated into translated into power, which is or like whatever you're, you know.
Right, but it's also like so is it like
so the energy would just whatever you're.
Yeah,
you know, like
no, but I mean like if the metal's then just like gone.
Yeah.
Like fully just from existence. Then we're like burning through a limited supply of like metal that exists in the world and turning it into pure energy. And so then it's like you can't like reuse the metal.
Yeah.
And so like I wonder about that.
Yeah.
But I mean like they're only using like little bits.
Yeah.
But it's still just like, does that metal end up in their system? Does it get like...
Yeah, because there's not like a ton of allomancers either.
No. It's like, does it get metabolized somehow?
Yeah.
By the body? Transformed into something else, and excreted. I don't know. Like,
I mean, I would assume.
Yeah, those probably weren't like those are the kinds of questions that I can see being just like hand waved.
Yeah,
that I'm like, I don't need an explanation to what happens to the metal when you burn it. Yeah. It's just gone, and that's fine. If trace metals in the water is enough to be usable, then like it's negligible how much they're going to be like burning out of existence with their using it, but like still just kind of like a thought that I have, because like, you know, once you get like an industrial scale, like if we can make everyone allomancers somehow, because the Lord Ruler just made people allomancers, so like then it could potentially start being a problem, but that's for future mistings in Mistborn to figure out once there's like the metal crisis. We're running out of metals.
So then after talking about some of the metals, now you should be able to notice a kind of pairing between your reserves of metals, like the 2 emotion metals. Vin said precisely, find the metal linked to pewter, and so then that's how she like finds those. Mistings who can burn pewter are called thugs. We know that. So what does the other internal physical metal do? And then she tried it, and it was
tin.
Tin.
Yep, and that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like they're both kind of internal physical in a way, but I can see why pewter's the external one, because it's like you're doing stuff. Yeah. Like you're like, it is more pushing than pulling, I guess, because like with tin you can kind of see it's like pulling in, because it's like you're taking in sensations rather than like using your body to exert onto the rest of the world. So I can kind of see that's like a in versus out, pull versus push kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, and then so she has her tin on. Leave it burning. You want to accustom yourself to the enhanced senses, but don't flare it all the time. Not only would you run out of it very quickly, but perpetually flaring metals does strange things to people. Strange, Vin asked? Metals, especially tin and pewter, stretch your body. Flaring the metals only pushes the stretching further. Stretch it too far too long, and things start to break.
Yeah, and he was flaring his pewter earlier.
Yeah.
Really stretching himself.
Yeah, so she's like looking around with her enhanced senses, and above she saw lights in the sky. She stopped, gazing up with wonder. They were faint, blurred to even her tin-enhanced eyes, but she could just barely make them out. Hundreds of them, thousands of them, so small, like the dying embers of candles recently extinguished. Stars, Kelsier said, strolling up beside her. You can't see them very often, even with tin. It must be a particularly clear night. People used to be able to look up and see them every night. That was before the mists came, and before the ash mounts erupted ash and smoke into the sky. How do you know? And then Kelsier's like, I found out from, he just says, Lord Ruler has tried hard to crush memories, but some still remain. Vin noticed he didn't actually answer the question.
Yes, my guess is that it's that guy earlier, Gemmel.
Gemmel?
Yeah. Because he knew shit.
Yeah. Yeah, so then they do, like, emotional elemancy, which...
And it would make sense that, like, people who know would get sent to the pits.
Yeah.
Because you don't want that information out there.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense if it was, like... That's why that person was sent to the pits and then was able to teach stuff to Cal.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, then they're talking about, bronze... And then we talk about Inquisitors are all seekers.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
with their fancy eye tattoos.
Yeah.
I think it'd be neat if... Because it's like... I'm curious if you have to, like, ingest the metal. Or if you can, like, burn it another way. Does it have to be, like, ingested in your stomach? Or could it be, like, burned another way?
Okay.
Like, if it was in your body some other way.
Okay.
If you could burn the metal, like, because I had that thought before with, like, Vin has, like, a piercing that she wears, and it makes her feel better.
Yeah.
And, like, that could just be, like, a very normal thing, or it
Yeah.
could be like, ooh, you know.
Yeah.
And, like, the guys with, like, the spikes through their head, I'm like, is that something that they're, like, burning somehow?
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they're...
Because I was thinking about, like, the Inquisitor eye tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah, so they were... Yeah, then she was suspicious that he wasn't telling her about the, about steel and iron.
Yeah. So she goes and tries it.
And she accidentally attacks herself.
Yes.
And yeah.
He's like, ha.
Yeah. So then it's, I'll explain what you did in a moment. First, there's something you have to understand about allomancy. Another rule, more a philosophy. It has to do with consequences. What do you mean? Every action we take has consequences. I found that both in allomancy and in life. The person who can best judge the consequences of their action will be the most successful. Take burning pewter for instance. What are its consequences? And then that goes into the whole, like, if you're
carrying something
too strong and you're too heavy and
or if it's keeping you alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's like probably would have passed out if it wasn't for the pewter and then like runs off.
Yeah. So then they're doing,
out there causing trouble on purpose to get shit riled up.
Yeah. So then they're doing steel pushing and iron pulling,
Yep.
Yeah. Now remember, push or pull is directly away from you or towards you.
Yep.
And then they go jump over the wall.
They go jump over the wall.
Then they go to jump over the wall.
And that's where it ends.
And that's where the chapter ends.
Puts the coin on the ground.
And he jumps over and he's like, come on. Jump over.
He jumps over and then she just like looks up and he didn't come back down. So she's like, well.
Yep. So
I guess I gotta do it.
Yep. Yeah.
And that'll be next time.
Yeah, next time on this podcast.
Next time on Survivor. For some reason, that's the one that comes to mind.
I didn't actually look at how many chapters we should do.
Yeah.
So we have chapter 8. We'll get to the beginning of. We'll have the end of
Part 2.
I thought about doing chapter 8 as well, and this one, but like it felt like a lot already, especially with all of the like kind of in-depth allomancy stuff. Like there was plenty to talk about, so I was like, we could go to the beginning of part 2, but I just decided to wait. So we've got chapter 8,
and 8 will bring us to the end of part 1.
To the end of part 1, beginning of part 2.
Beginning of part 2. So then we'll do some of part 2.
Yeah, we'll do. Yes. Okay. I'm just very excited. I saw a character that I'm quite excited about in chapter 9.
Chapter 9.
Chapter 9. Okay. So let's go to Let's go through 8, 9, 10. Yeah, let's do 8, 9, and 10.
8, 9, and 10.
Yeah, it's about
another 3 chapters.
147 to 203. So it's
Yeah. Sounds good. Another 3 chapters.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And so that's where we'll pick up next time.
Yeah.
As after chapter 10.
Yes.
Yeah, through chapter 10.
Through chapter 10. Yep.
Nice.
Yep, and we'll be into part 2.
Woo! Part
Woohoo!
2.
And we'll be like about a third of the way through, looks like.
Yeah, looks like
Maybe
about a third of. Roundabout. Alrighty.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'll get to listen to more.
More Mistborn.
Yes.
Yep.
Get to listen while I like cooking stuff.
Yeah. So, if there's anyone watching, thanks for doing that.
Yes.
This is fun.
I'll
Talking about books.
Yes. All of you hypothetical people out there in hypothetical land.
Exactly.
All right. So that'll be that from us, I guess.
Yes.
So
have a lovely day.
Yes, or whatever time it is, wherever.
Exactly.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I'm waving even though you can't see me. Bye-bye.